Well, welcome everyone to GSuite for Business. My name's Joy Taylor of the Women's Business Center at Jedi. We are known as the place where potential becomes prosperity. And those of you, as you're joining us, hello. I see lots of familiar names coming on screen, and some of you are watching the recording. Many of you are clients and you're already working with us. Some of you are new to our center in Northern California. We have amazing people that work at our center, and guest presenters and contractors that help you succeed. If you're a small business owner and you really want to up your game or get started, or you have an idea and a hobby and you're thinking, could I make money at this? Please visit us. We have training and classes and private one-on-one business and financial consultations, tax preparation, business planning, loan application assistance, and advanced business development support. And this particular webinar is going to be all about, like I said earlier, productivity and technology. So if you can go to the next slide, how to get the most out of the webinar. This is a class, it's an online class. It's going to be interactive. You can chat questions, you can ask questions, and we have some polls. You have the option of really focusing in, taking notes, and getting involved. I think that being productive in our business is one of the best things we can do to save time, and that helps us save money, and it helps us fulfill our mission and reach more people. So enjoy and apply this to your business. The chat box is in the bottom. If you're new to the webinar platform, down below you see a little chat. And if you'd like to say anything to the group or privately to me or ask a question, please put it in chat. You can even say hello. If anyone wants to chat hello, just to show everyone how it's done, go ahead and do that. Okay, let's do this thing. I am pleased to introduce today Amanda Lynn. She was raised in an entrepreneurial family, and she says that laid the foundation for her lifestyle, and that is a creative lifestyle and a lifestyle of an entrepreneur. Her e-commerce background consists of senior technical sales and assistant sales management of one of America's largest solar suppliers. She now works as a freelance creative director, offering support in her private practice, and she's also the digital support manager of our marketing at the Women's Business Center at Jedi. Welcome, 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 Amanda.
Thank you, Joy. I'm so glad to be here with you today, and I'm excited to talk more about GSuite and how it can help all of us be more productive in our business ventures.
Super. Let's do it.
All right. So what we will learn today: the differences between cloud storage and local storage with Google, Gmail, Google Docs, and Google Sheets, how to share files, Google Calendar, some basic social media integration, the cost and other considerations, and how to pull it all together, the best practices for organization and time management. All right, so to begin with, we'd like to start with a poll. I'd like to know, which GSuite apps do you use the most? So if you want to take a moment, and looks like the poll has popped up. And
this will give us a good sense of if you're using Google Docs. You know, I have to say, while people are voting, you know, Amanda, up until about a year ago, I didn't even use much GSuite. Now, as I'm doing business with people all over the country and the world, it's almost required. It's becoming such a norm. Can you speak to that just really briefly? I don't want to put you on the spot, but is the future of collaborations really going to be GSuite?
I think it has come along with the, business world becoming digital. I talked to a lot of people who have said, man, I used to do everything on paper, and now I can't even if I wanted to anymore. And I feel like we kind of went through an era of getting everything on the computer. But once the internet really caught up to speed and we got the bandwidth accessible, all of a sudden it became, now we got to get it from the computer to the internet. And that's what makes GSuite different, is that ability to be able to access it and collaborate live online as opposed to on our individual computers alone.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to share these results. I get a sneak peek, and we have almost everyone voted. A few people didn't have a chance, it looks like, but I'm going to end the poll and share the results. Ready?
Yeah.
There you go.
Awesome. So Google Calendar and Google Drive look like taking the lead. Google Docs coming in second, and Google Sheets.
But not, really relatively speaking, a lot of people on the webinar today are definitely beginners in the whole world of utilizing Google Docs, Sheets, Calendar, etc., to collaborate and build their business. Super.
Okay. So to begin, I want to cover what is considered the equivalents, some other softwares and platforms that you might be familiar with that Google is attempting to basically replace, and then take those replacements and keep them integrated to one another through Google's suite. So the first is Microsoft Word. You may have heard and worked on this. It's a pretty well-known software nowadays, and so the equivalent of that is Google Docs. Then Microsoft Excel, the equivalent of Google Sheets. Calendar feature, Google has a calendar just called Google Calendar. Social media, some people don't realize because Google Plus isn't as big as Facebook, but that's something that they've integrated as well, an approach to social media. Google Hangouts is equivalent to Skype, even Zoom. Not as technically savvy, some of these, but definitely along the same lines. And then Dropbox is something that I've heard a lot more people familiar with than Google Drive, but the capability of Google Drive to be more collaborative is definitely evident. Google Webmaster is the equivalent to WordPress, not an exact equivalent, but Google's attempt to deal with building websites. Google Slides is Google's version of PowerPoint. So like this presentation here was built in Google Slides. Google Photos, that was kind of a hard equivalent, but basically where it uploads and keeps all of your photos in live time. So if you take the picture, it can sense it from your phone and keep it stored up there in your photos automatically. So that's pretty cool. Google Chrome is the internet browser that you might have heard of Internet Explorer. A lot of people use that, and that's Microsoft's version of surfing the web. But Chrome is integrated across the rest of the Google platform so that if you log into it from any computer, it remembers who you are and what websites you visited. Then Google Play Music is equivalent to Pandora, any of those online radio stations. Google Wallet does a very similar thing as PayPal if you want to send money to your friends and family. Google Forms acts similar to MailChimp by way of being able to build and distribute online forms. And okay, sorry about that. So
can I ask, there's one question, Amanda. This is so important. This information is great. Their equivalent, are they also compatible? And maybe you'll cover that as we go through the presentation.
They are compatible. That's a great question. So not all of them are exactly compatible, but Google built it so that they can seamlessly integrate and replace them. So for example, when you go to save a Microsoft Word document, it's saved as what's called a docx formula, and as opposed to a regular Word doc is a doc file. And it's designed to be able to integrate wherever you would normally use a Microsoft Word document in the same way.
Super, great distinction. And I know that that's been really like a deal breaker for me to be able to take my Google Docs and just quickly save them as a Word doc because I need them in both versions. So thanks.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking, because it's definitely a big concern. And they do all have pluses and minuses for sure. And Google has, you know, when you're the jack of all trades and the master of none, Google has a little bit of that going on where it's like, we're going to do everything, but it's not specifically like their whole business is on like cloud storage or something like that. So good questions. So the next thing I wanted to cover is what is the G Suite? So a lot of people refer to Google or they refer to Google Docs. Originally, when I was asked to teach this class first time around, you know, can you teach a class on Google Docs? And the answer is yes, and that's not usually what people are actually referring to that they want to learn about. They do want to understand how to use the equivalent of a Word document, but for the most part, what they're really trying to understand is how to pull this all together simply in order to be able to make it practical and useful in their day-to-day life and conducting business. And so the G Suite is all of those apps that we just covered and them integrated under the umbrella of Google. And so that is what Google has named its platform. The primary difference between the G Suite and a traditional Microsoft computer or an Apple Mac computer is that it's all hosted online. So everything that Google does has a website. And that website, when you access that from any device, makes it so that it's compatible across all platforms and accessible wherever you have internet. A lot of the features are also available offline, but that's more of a temporary feature if you don't have internet, but it's designed to work online. So that is the overview of what exactly G Suite is. The next thing that I want to talk about is something called non-local storage. So the difference, because a lot of people come to me and they're like, you know, Amanda, I'm tired of learning about computers. I don't understand as far as technology. It's always changing. It's hard to keep up with it. It's really time consuming to learn. And I completely understand that. And what I found though is that in this world that we've created with regular computers, not necessarily related to internet access, is that the limitations in that are trying to be overcome in a way that actually decreases the amount of work that all of this is. It's supposed to be easier. And so people nowadays in this technology world are trying to give us more tools to get work done faster and easier. And so that's how non-local storage came about. Non-local storage is this idea that if we don't have to save the information locally on a hard drive or on a computer, then we can have access to it from anywhere and also collaborate with one another. And so that is a very brief overview of really what makes this technology revolutionary and worth learning more about. The next thing I want to cover is how to access the G Suite. So initially, what you'll need is a Gmail account. So Gmail is Google's version of email. And what that does is give you the initial login that then gives us access to everything else. So from that one login information, one can then log into Google Slides, Sheets, Calendars, etc. But Google sees you as that user ID that came from your Gmail account. And that integrates then across these platforms so that you can also use them together, which is so neat to be able to have your calendar speaking with your Gmail, speaking with your docs, whatnot, and trying to make your life easier. So this is an example of what this screen looks like when you log into Gmail. So if you don't have a Gmail account, super simple, just go ahead and Google Gmail, and it'll prompt you with how to sign up. If you already have one, do know that you already have access to all of these other apps. And so I'd like to point out up here in this corner with these squares, there's the drop-down feature, and then it'll list all of them for you. And if you want to, so here's this little squares, and then here are the different apps. And so you can click from here to get to all of these different features. And if you click on more, it'll continue to show you different apps. But the idea is that it's all integrated from this beginning point. So if you're looking for a place to start, step one, signing up for a Gmail account. If you already have your Gmail account, understanding that you don't now need to go through and sign up for Google Calendar or sign up for Google Docs, or that's all part of what you've already done by creating this initial login. So Joy, do we have any questions that's popped up about that so far?
No questions have popped up, but this is great.
Okay, awesome. So next, my account. So this is the place where you can go to manage this account you have with Google. So all of your security and your sign in, and I forgot my password, or I need to, check in on my privacy settings. All of it is located here, and this is pretty straightforward, but a lot of people don't realize, well, yeah, I have a Gmail account. Well, if you have this Gmail account, you also have access to all this account management features in one place. So just as a heads up, My account is what that's called.
So quick question, Amanda, how long would it take for someone to go into my account and, just put their preferences, maybe a photo or avatar, get to know and get familiar with this page?
I would say that this is as much or as little time as one would want to spend. I mean, I really didn't visit this page for a while when I first started. It just down the line became helpful as I was really starting to get to know Google better, actually, and in need of those types of things.
Great.
All right. Okay, cool. So next is Gmail. So this is a really wonderful email program that is completely free, and originally comes with, I do believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's 15 gigabytes of storage, which is a lot of email space. And it's always being updated and sort of given the next best as far as capabilities. And so basically the simplicity is that you can just hit compose right here, boom, and pop open a new email. Easy. One can also separate email between what's considered primary email. So it's keeping track of the people that it knows I really want to hear from, and then filtering into other folders for me, social emails, like emails I get from Instagram or Facebook, promotional emails that I get from Amazon and whatnot, and then updates, like if I purchase a plane ticket or something, it'll put an update in here knowing that it's something important, but it's not probably an actual human being sending me a single email. So the organizational capacity in your workday, when you're trying to really focus on like, okay, I need just the human emails coming to me so I can respond to them quicker, is pretty helpful. The next thing is that you'll notice over here, you have access to these other app icons. So once again, if I want to then click over to my Google Calendar, it's right here. I don't have to go searching for it. So that's pretty helpful. My favorite feature of Gmail is the ability to search mail. So this bar up here, so for example, my last Google account that I had for 5 years, and I would be able to hop in here and click search, and boom, it's going to pull up all the search results and emails from that person or from that subject. And I found that that's been really helpful as far as staying organized in a day-to-day workflow as well. And then also over here, one can create folders. So as I'm going throughout my workday, I try to take these and sort them over here so that they're, imagine like a desktop. You're trying to organize the information on your desktop and make sure that you're staying ahead of not feeling overwhelmed with too many things on your plate. So that's the beauty of Gmail. And I think that's the basics of Gmail as far as the functioning. I'm going to go back through and give some examples if we get time here in a couple minutes, but I want to go ahead and just start with covering the basics. So
great. And I'll just make a little comment as a Gmail user who forwards her Gmail to Outlook. For those of you who are kind of using Outlook, you can forward your Gmail to your Outlook if that's a concern for you. Or you can use Gmail Direct like we're seeing here on the screen. Great.
That's super helpful to mention. And also that I want to mention that you can get it on your phone as the Gmail app, as you can with Outlook. But just something to keep in mind too, that's a simple, just hop on to your Play Store or whatever type of on your phone you have to download apps and search for Gmail or Google Calendars or whatever, and it'll operate directly from the app. And in my case, with having more than one Google account, you can also drop down from up here and it will give you options to access your different Google accounts. So for example, if you have a work and a personal account, you can switch back and forth throughout your workday. Or what I do, like Joy was saying, is I actually send some of my emails from one email address to another and just keep track of them all in here. So that's something that's pretty helpful as well. Okay, moving right along. So next thing is Google Docs. So this is, like I said before, Microsoft Word's equivalent. So a lot of folks are familiar with working with Microsoft Word, and that's a super helpful platform. And so far with Google Docs, it basically, it's almost the same thing. It's just online. So as you'll notice up here, there is this web address. So this is hosted on the internet. So the joy of that and the helpfulness of that is that if you are working with a coworker, it's super simple to hop on and be able to collaborate with one another from the internet, as opposed to having to type up the document, send the document in an email as an attachment, have them download it onto their computer, have them make their edits and changes, upload it back to the email, and send it back to you. In this case, we'll go over here in a little bit an example of what that looks like to collaborate back and forth on a document. But for the most part, this is an example of what you would see when you first open Google Docs. And then you'd go ahead and just click Start New Document if you want to. That's located right here. And down here, it'll keep track of all your documents like it would in Microsoft Word. And let me see here real quick. And yeah, so that's pretty straightforward. It does most of the same things. I'm going to go ahead and just hold off just a second to go back through and give an example of that. But that's the brief overview of Google Docs. So the next thing that sort of organizes all of this is what's called Google Drive. So what Google Drive is trying to accomplish is trying to replace your hard drive on your computer. And it doesn't need to do that this week, but over the course of the next 10 years, inevitably what'll happen is that regular hard drives will probably become obsolete. And in place of that, everything will be stored in some online capacity. So if you've ever lost your computer or lost your phone or lost whatever, you're probably familiar with what that feels like to lose all your stuff. And thankfully, that's the benefit of online storage, is that you're not going to be able to just have your laptop stolen and lose all of your documents. It's all going to be organized online and accessible also across time. So if you have, documents from 10 years ago, they're going to be stored in one spot. So this is a picture of what the Google Drive page looks like. And basically, it's organizing in the same ways it would a desktop, where it's keeping track of my folders. So it's got everything here that I'm keeping track of in my day-to-day work life and personal life. It's got a quick access feature for some of my most recent files I've accessed. And then it has a new feature. And what this does is, in the same way, if you were to file save a Microsoft Word document onto your computer, you are basically file saving onto Google's Drive. Then what happens is, once it's file saved onto Google's Drive, then you can take, and when you write and compose an email from Gmail, you can take that link and copy and paste that link into an email, and that becomes accessible to the person you're sending it to, as well as stored on here. So that's pretty cool. And then it also has the ability shared with me. So when I had my old Gmail account, I'd had it for 5 years. What I did is I shared the entirety of that old storage, which I had like 50 gigabytes of information on that drive. And I took that and I shared it with my new email address from Gmail. And now I have access with myself, actually, to all of my old shared hard drive, which would be the equivalent of keeping an external hard drive with you. So an external hard drive is one of those things that you take and you plug into your computer, and it keeps track of all your files, or sometimes even a little thumb drive. So this is like a very large version of this, and a much more effective version of that storage capacity. So that is the basics of what this is. And this, so for example, I'm working on what's called a Chromebook, which is Google's netbook, where it just has the internet. It doesn't have an ability to store anything on the computer. And it only uses this Google Drive as its storage capacity. So there is nothing saved on the actual netbook itself. And it accesses everything through these little icons here. This is actually the bottom of my computer screen. So when I go to click on the web browser, or click on Gmail, or click on Google Docs, then it brings me right to those platforms through the internet without actually having to use anything on the computer itself. All right.
Amanda, can we ask a question?
Absolutely.
Okay, question came in.
Awesome.
Okay, did you say when I save a new Word doc on my laptop, it's automatically saved into my G Drive? And then I go to new to access the link to share versus sharing an attachment? Great question. Lots of nuances there.
Awesome. Thanks for clarifying. I appreciate that. So when it does not, so on my computer, it does automatically do that because it is a Chromebook. So for me personally, working on Google's netbook, when I save a document, it's saving it to this Word here. I don't have Microsoft Word, Microsoft Office. For a person who has a regular computer, you do whatever you'd like in Microsoft Office, and if you'd like to, you can upload it into the drive. But if you are working within Google Docs on the platform online, then in that case, it is automatically saving everything to your Google Docs. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And, you know, I'm one of those people who kind of uses both. So I'll answer that question as well. And yeah, absolutely. You want to bring it into the Google Drive, especially when you're sharing, or vice versa. Someone shares with you a Google Doc and then you want to do a save as for a Word doc if you want to, for some reason, store it outside of the G Suite. Is that helpful? I think so. Okay. Hey, we're getting great feedback, by the way. Lots of thumbs up. People are enjoying. And then, yes, perfect clarification from Diana, who asked the question.
Awesome. Thanks for that. And also, as far as the email portion of it, it's just a matter of copying and pasting or hitting attach on the link from Gmail. And that's how you get it to send in the email, if that makes more sense, as opposed to a Word document where you would attach it from the hard drive. You're attaching it from a link. All right. So the next thing I want to cover is Google Sheets. So Google Sheets is the equivalent of Microsoft Excel. And this is an example of something that is definitely in no way confidential. So I thought I'd share this today. Just a planning sheet that we had used as a group to plan our Bel Campo event for the Women in Business Network meeting last week. And as you can see, it's got the same features as regular Excel. So up here you can go through and file, save, and edit, view, insert, etc., just like you would do in regular Excel. For the most part, what I've found is that Google Sheets, Google Docs, Google Slide can keep up with the regular Excel, PowerPoint, Word softwares about 85% of the time. I was able to get through 6 years of going to school online using Google Docs, and it wasn't until I got to actually postgraduate stuff that I had to switch to using Microsoft Word Online, because Microsoft Word is more powerful. But as far as my everyday work life and just collaborating with other people and keeping track of those types of things, that definitely all of these platforms should do what you're trying to do for the most part, and definitely make it easier to collaborate. It kind of makes up for some of those features that once in a while, like, man, it doesn't do whatever this, like Zoom, you know, it's Google's version of Hangouts is definitely not as involved as Zoom, but it works really well if you just want to chat with someone at home or chat with a coworker real quick, as opposed to, you know, some of the features that you lose when you don't have the integration option. The other cool thing I like is that all changes saved in Drive happens automatically when you're connected to the internet. So anytime you're working on one of these, it's going to automatically keep it with, as opposed to an Excel file where you need to file save it, which I think there's sometimes nowadays where that's starting to auto save, but this is actually saving it to the drive and saving it into Excel. So for example, even if Excel auto saved it, it's still on that computer. Whereas when Google auto saves it, even if you got your computer stolen this weekend, that is there and it's going to stay in your account and it's going to become available across devices. So if you want to open that same, you know, Excel file or Sheets file on your phone, it's going to be right there, no problem. So that is the benefit as far as Google Sheets. Do you have any questions popping up yet about that, Joy?
No questions.
All right. We'll keep moving in case you get a chance to do some examples. So next thing is Google Calendar. This is my favorite feature and the one that I've used the longest. So Google Calendar is the only way I ever know where I'm going in my day. And my phone pops up and says, hey, you need to be here in 15 minutes. And the best part about Google Calendar is its integration with Google Maps. So when I had lived in Honolulu, actually, my Google Calendar could tell me when I needed to leave based on its calculation of how long traffic would take to get across town to my next appointment. But it could tell based off of putting the information as to where the locations were between platforms. So that was pretty neat. And that it's not very complicated. You just add the location. And obviously, for those of us who are in Mount Shasta, not such a big deal, but it is neat that it is available as far as integration across worlds here. And basically, one can keep track of, for example, I shared a calendar with another massage therapist way back in the day, and we would be able to see one another's calendars, and we would only share our massage appointments. We wouldn't share anything else as far as our personal calendars, but we wouldn't have to call each other in order to coordinate and say, hey, could I use our shared room next Friday at 3? I could go ahead and just hop on there and see what her appointments were, add my appointments, seamless. And so that's the beauty of Google Calendar, is its integration. The other thing that's beautiful about Google in general, but especially Google Calendar, is its ability to sync across platforms. So I helped a client a few weeks ago that was using the Outlook platform and was having a hard time with, it had somehow stopped supporting the software that was syncing it across devices. And that was a little bit of a headache. But with Google, because it is built into each other, then that way everything that shows up is showing up across platforms. So that's really neat. And another really cool feature that I use a lot is adding the link to the meetings within the actual event itself. So when one hops on here, this starts out obviously as a blank canvas, but you can go to this add feature here to add a new event. And when you add the new event, you fill in these details. So for example, this Dunsmuir Crystal Festival, you type that in, it prompts you to add the time, and you can just add that, done. You don't have to ever add anything else. But if you want to, for example, say that this was like a Zoom meeting, or like over here, a practice webinar, 10 to 11, then I add that link to the webinar within this. And as soon as my phone knows that I'm trying to go to this webinar, it'll actually prompt that link for me, so it's right there. So for those of us who are busy and have a lot going on in our lives, it can definitely be super time saving.
I want to just chime in and say that I love organizing my life and taking notes and keeping things and blocking out time using a calendar. So
Right?
the whole productivity that is available to us using the Google Calendar or any digital calendar, but definitely Google if you're going that direction, is so critical. And I liked what you said about the notes section, inviting other people to join events, travel time. I love to include like directions if I'm going somewhere, boom.
Mm-hmm.
Google Map is going to show me how to get there and how long it takes. So this is a productivity tool that really ups our game as business owners. And I think it's essential to make the switch, if you haven't yet, to a digital calendar.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. As fun as it is to have a regular planner, it really is nice to be able to integrate the digital.
To-do list. I don't even need a to-do list because I literally block out like an hour to check email and an hour to prepare for a program and etc. So it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
Thanks for showing us your calendar.
I know. I'm like, well, this is my life. If anyone wants to know, I actually don't put everything on there. I just put when I have to be at an appointment. But so all those white times are my times that I actually work. The times I get to sit down and get, sit in front of my computer and make stuff happen. But
then you pull out your notebook, because I know you have a notebook of to-dos. I've worked with you long enough to know that, Amanda.
The one digital thing that Amanda, which is funny because Google has a to-do option that I don't use.
Well, sometimes paper is kind,
It's
nice to use a pen and paper. I agree. Okay, this is wonderful. Lots of good feedback from the group. Diana asked a question about, she'd love to know the technical operations to put together a Zoom class. And that's a great idea for an upcoming webinar. I know so many people are starting to teach on webinar platforms and Zoom meetings. So note well taken. I got it. Okay.
Yeah, and that's actually kind of coming into our next part as far as, integrating all of this with social media and digital marketing integration. That I actually did a 500-hour training through Zoom. That is just like, that's normal nowadays.
Yeah.
But when we can collaborate and we can share and we can, make our world a lot smaller, we have this global clientele. And it's just amazing that it really is all starting to come together. And
Great.
so that's my point, I guess, in this last slide. I just want to cover as far as social media and digital marketing is, for example, if you have a Google document that you've prepared that's like, you know, 10 steps to greater business success, or like whatever document you created as far as content for digital marketing or social media. You can then take that link that Google creates, because everything is tied to a link, and you can post that, for example, on your website as a button that says click here, and it'll pull them to the Google Doc. So that is another one of the beauties of it being hosted online, is that it becomes part of the digital world. And it's already digital when it's on Microsoft Word, but when it's online, it's also working seamlessly with these other platforms in order to have a more cohesive approach to presenting your content and your marketing. Same with social media. So if you come up with some really neat PowerPoint, or you have, for example, a closed Facebook group and you want to share like today's, you know, PowerPoint presentation, upload that file and boom, it's there with all the information in a way that's just a lot more streamlined than emailing a single attachment to everybody and those folks not really being able to communicate and integrate. So there's a lot of neat things coming, I think, in the next few years as far as the way that these integrate. Okay, so I have questions next, but I did want to take a minute to go back through and give a couple examples of how to collaborate. So Joy, do we have questions that we haven't answered yet, or do we have a moment to see if we can get this screen share to work to do that?
Let's answer one question, and I think doing next a screen share would be great. But okay, here's the question.
Okay.
Susan asked, although I have my default setting as private, some of my calendar items show up as public and I can't find out why. Any thoughts? I have to manually change them.
I would ask, do you have more than one account, or is it just one Google account?
So Susan, I can bring you live if you don't mind. I'll just allow you to talk. Susan, you are unmuted. Oh, it's not happening. Okay, there she is. Hi, Susan.
Hi.
Hi.
Yes, I do have more than one account.
Okay, that happens to me a lot. When I have more than one account, I'm trying to keep track of making sure that Google knows where you're trying to put it. And for some reason in that back and forth, it can just get a little delicate sometimes. That's been my experience. I don't know if that's helpful or not, but.
Yes, that's very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thanks, Susan. Let's go ahead and go into your screen share, and then meanwhile, if people want to type in questions, or you can raise your hand and we'll hear you verbally, that would be great.
Stop this for a second so I can reshare the whole, because it's a different application window.
Okay, well, I'll show up too, and let's share screen. Thanks so much for all of you who are here. Great, great ideas and questions. Anyone else want to make a comment while we're doing the screen share? All right. So Amanda, you're about to show us how you can share and collaborate on Google Docs, I think.
Yes, here we are. Can you guys see this?
Yeah.
Awesome. So here's an example of a Google Doc that is up and running here. And so, for example, if I start typing, good afternoon, Joy, what are your thoughts on Google? And in this case, then Joy, are you able on your end to hop on there and to make a comment or anything at this point, or is that going to be complicated with your screen? Oh, I see ya. Awesome. So as you can see in live time, we're able to have this conversation on this document and collaborate. We can also go over here and add a comment. So for example, in school, this is what my professors do, is they go over here and say like, looks great, or needs better citation, and add that comment. Or we can resolve. So I had said something earlier here to Joy, and then once I've dealt with that, I've got a couple options here to resolve that. Yeah, there we go. Awesome. So then when I can reply to Joy's comment, great idea, Joy. And then even it's trying to find her in my contacts here. So if it wants to notify her now that she's got a comment, even if she's not operating within this doc currently. Well, that's pretty cool.
So meanwhile, on my screen, I'm seeing the same thing on the webinar that I see on the other side of my screen. And this is so fabulous to be able to be editing and commenting and collaborating. And you showed us how you organize the Women in Business annual event on a spreadsheet, which is another way to use this kind of share option. So did we show people how to share up there in the right corner?
Yes. So when you go to share, thank you. So you hit share. And then this is really important to pay attention to, because this will drive other people in your life a little nuts if you don't pay attention to what option is listed here. So in this case, I've shared this so that anyone with the link can edit. As you'll see, there are a lot of options. So if you wanted to share this, for example, as a piece of content and you don't want people to edit it, then you can say that anyone can view. Right now, it thinks that I only want anyone at Amanda Lynn, but if I go to more, I can also change this to on, public on the web, and anyone on the internet can access it. That doesn't mean they can edit it. But if you wanted that to be live on a website or on social media, that would be an option for you. You could also, if you want it really private, you're absolutely, can keep it like normal with a traditional document. So if you don't click share, it's not going to automatically be shared. But if you have shared the document in the past, Google will ask you if you want to share it with the same people in the future if, for example, you make a new copy of that document or something like that.
Great. Hey, I've got 2 questions that came in.
Yeah.
Okay. The autosave feature in Google Docs, just a little bit about it, and then does it help edit? It helps edit archiving. Will it archive all the edits as well, I think is the question.
That's a great question. And no, it won't. And that's what you want to be very careful with, is it's saving as you go. So it assumes whatever you've made, that's what you want. So if you want to turn that off, you can, especially if you hop off the internet, then it'll just keep the document as is. But what you really want to do is, if you want to keep your old archived copy, is that you want to make a copy of it. So you click here, make a copy of GSuite example document, and I can share it with the same people and copy comments and suggestions or not. And it's saving it in my Google Drive, and I hit OK. And so now I have a copy of this. So these changes here will not be changed on my original document. This will stay the same.
And then so it's a copy, so it renamed it automatically.
Yep, absolutely.
Another question is about the search function and organizing your Google Docs into folders. Do you want to share anything about how you can search for documents or how to create folders?
Absolutely. So if I click here, open file picker, or if I, honestly, I organize mine more in Drive than I do in Docs. But this is the organizational tool here as far as keeping track of which documents that you have. So what I do is I click on this icon down here on my screen. I don't know if you guys can see this or not because it's sharing the application window. Let me see.
No, we don't see.
Okay, so let me see if I can share. Can you guys see? But you can see when I switch back and forth between Google Docs and regular Docs?
We see your browser.
Okay, so if let me see if I can type in. Let's see. If I type in Google Drive, my Drive, and now it's automatically opening my Google Drive. So this is where I keep my folders and I organize everything. So this is not unique to just documents. So this is all types of Excel documents or pictures or slideshows in this one place. So if I want to go to a new and then folder, and I want to call this Word Documents, create. Now I've got a new spot down here to put my Word documents. So let's see. So if I want to take here and how about cut? I want to drag it is what I'm trying to do. So now it'll drag it up here. And I can put it, Word documents. Now, if I open Word documents, there's my file.
And you can share folders and files with people.
Yep. So I shared the entirety of my 50 gigs of files with myself. So if I go to shared with me, now I can go through and see all these things that I have access to here, but a lot of them are from that other whole entire file that I shared with myself.
So show us a little bit about the search. Like, I know it's, as business owners, we have so many files and sheets and, going at one time. How do we find something if we don't know where we filed it within our drive?
That's a great question. So if I type in, the name of my school is Liberty University. If I type in Liberty and hit enter, let's see if it pulls up anything from that. So here, as you can see, now it's going to pull up everything related to school. So it's got my Liberty file where I keep all my research and whatnot for my classes, along with my papers and whatnot. So this is both of my classes here. It's going to keep track of everything as far as what it's seen that I haven't filed that says Liberty in it. Like, for example, here's some Liberty correspondence and whatnot. Same with in my inbox for Gmail. I can go Liberty, and it's going to find everything that says Liberty in it. I can also do at liberty.edu, and it's going to figure out what exactly I'm looking for as far as that actually says .edu in it. Or it'll drop down here and it says, okay, what's going on here? Like here, my professors emailed me from Liberty. So those are how they interact together.
Amanda, you have covered so much in this webinar. And I think that when it comes to technology, unless there's any other questions, this is so much to absorb, but super profound, powerful. What a great overview. Do you have any tips on learning and practicing the whole GSuite? It's one thing to watch a webinar, but like get our hands in there. What are some good ways to just figure it out as we go along or learn it ourselves for people who want?
That is such a good question. And let me tell you what, I only learned it by using it. I actually went in one day and just, I was a student and I didn't have any money. And I was like, I just need the cheapest computer you have that types Word documents. Like I just need to access the internet and type up Word documents. And they handed me this Chromebook and they said, here you go. This is, the most affordable thing we have. And so it forced me to basically just use Google. And that's how I learned, was just using it. But Google is trying to be intuitive. So it's trying to sort of meet us where we're at as far as figuring some of this stuff out. So my best advice is to just get started and to just try it. And especially when, for example, if you're the person in your workflow that has some say in how you organize your workflow. If you're, for example, working for yourself, obviously you have a lot of say in that, whereas you're working with coworkers, they might be like, I don't want to use Google this or that. But at the end of the day, I mean, challenging that status quo and just giving it a shot. It doesn't take long. It starts working well before it's like, okay, worth it, worth the initial frustration, but practice really in this case will be the quickest way to get better.
I think that's great advice for any technology mindset. We did get one last question and then we'll go to our final polls and our final slides, but how can I use this for contracts such as non-disclosure agreements or any electronic signatures?
So as far as electronic signatures, I would still advise using some sort of, they have like these
DocuSign.
DocuSign, yeah, I would still use that, but then you could save that document in the Google Drive and keep track of it that way. So if you had a client who needed to, sign an informed consent and you needed to keep track of it, that would be a really powerful way. Your other option is to give them the option of that there's some, you could check into the legalities of like making their electronic signature or initials have the same weight as a regular pen to ink signature. And I don't know anything about that. But that's sort of technology coming down the line that I don't think we're that far away from eventually, that will be a lot simpler to have a quicker way to have people not have to print things pen to paper when we do everything else on the internet.
Yeah, and I think, Robert, good question. And I bet you anything. G Suite is thinking, okay, now next is our electronic signature. But I would Google DocuSign is a very reputable company that allows you to create legal documents and have people sign, and it is considered a legal doc. And then there's others. So you might want to say competitors of DocuSign as well. And then store them, as Amanda said here. Well, cool. Amanda, while you pull up our final slides, I'm going to do a couple more polls.
Okay, awesome.
So I want to know, and Amanda wants to know, how are you going to use this information? So if you see the poll up on your screen for operations, time management, the poll is launched. Can someone vote? I don't think they're seeing it, so maybe share the slides again, Amanda. Oh, good, people are voting.
Okay, and here's slides. Let me just present them.
All right, we're gonna end the poll and let you all see the results. I'll give you 10 more seconds. A couple of you haven't voted. Actually, gosh, only 58% of you have voted. Should be up on your main screen. Sometimes people can't find it. All right, well, end the poll. And for the fun of it, Amanda, people would use this information for operations, accessing new tools, and then a few people also said time management, working with collaborators.
Awesome.
So good. We're happy that you're going to use it because it's wonderful to save a little time and be more efficient. We're all really busy in our businesses, and that's always so important.
Absolutely.
All right, well, let's go through these last few announcements and invitations. I want to call it an invitation. We have so many great things happening at the Women's Business Center. Specifically, if you live in Reading or you want to travel down to Reading every single month, we have a Women Entrepreneurs We Thrive event. And the speaker on November 20th at noon is a florist. And she's got a lot to say about creating ambiance for events and I think a few other things as well. So that's happening in Reading. And it's not just presentation, it's a lot of meet and greet. In fact, the whole facilitation is you doing your hello, my name is, and what I do for a living, as well as networking opportunities. And a really powerful networking plus learning opportunity that happens every single quarter. Around the corner in Mount Shasta is Prosperity Quarterly with Renee. And this November 20th at 5:30 p.m. is the Art of Receiving, so your business can thrive. And then I want to put a big plug out for It's Your Business Part 2, the executive called you. This is a 3-week online class, very interactive, kind of like a webinar, except for we are more Hollywood squares and I get to see you all. We have special guests, but we're going to be talking about managing your business, the financials of business, cash flows, bookkeeping, tax planning, as well as productivity, organization, and visioning, legal aspects. It's a lot in 3 weeks, a wonderful overview to help you really become the best you can be and, stop the scatter. Create some systems for your business. It's a push pause. We so often work in our business, we forget to work on our business. So I invite you to join us for that as well. And what else, Amanda? Just a big thank you to you. And please, if you haven't been a member of the WBC at Jedi or you haven't had any one-on-one consulting, we're here for you. We are grant funded in part by the SBA as well as lots of wonderful organizations and sponsors that put money into our economy by putting money into you. Because we know that when you thrive, we all thrive. We're big proponents of shopping local, which is coming up this month, and supporting one another in growing in business. So we're getting thank you. Our men welcomed at the Women's meetings in Reading. Yeah, we've had men ask, and I always say, you can come. It's usually all women. So far, we haven't had any, but join us. And definitely the Prosperity Quarterly in Mount Shasta is not gender specific. And just a little note on that, we are a women's business center. There is some specific $17 million of the federal budget has been allocated to help women because traditionally women haven't had the same skills, acumen, or confidence to build and grow businesses. And that is why we have the funding and the focus to help women in that arena. But hey, why not, Robert? Come on down and bring your chips. All right. Hey, Amanda, I'm going to launch another poll. But before I do, I want to say thank you. This was fabulous. Anything else you want to say to encourage us to take a little time to play a little more in the G Suite?
I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity to share this information. I feel like I've just noticed that I can't tell you how many people are like, thank you for sitting down and going over this with me, and how much it improves their quality of life, really, and trying to manage so many tasks and responsibilities that we have all day long. And my encouragement is just to keep on with it. And if you know, you get stuck or whatnot, that's the beauty of Google, is you can Google the answer. So just keep, you know, checking in and asking questions, and it all come together.
Perfect. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thanks again. We're so blessed to have you as part of our Women in Business Center team.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right. Well, we love your feedback. And one thing we like to know is how you heard about this webinar. It helps us know where to put our efforts, our time, and our energy when we market, when we outreach. So a couple of you are voting, just a lot of you, and this is traditional, a lot of you say Jedi e-news. By the way, when I launch the polls, this might give you some information on how to best market your businesses as well. Okay, we have almost everyone, so I am going to launch the poll for all our benefit for fun. Look at that, Jedi e-news, one person on social media, thank you, Amanda, and one from our website. All right. Well, I appreciate today. I appreciate all of you. Lots of familiar names on the chat, on the panelists, on the attendee list. So I'm really grateful you all were here today. And next month's webinar is the power of story. And we have an incredible TEDx speaker who's also an author who's going to help business owners learn to create their business story for their about page, for the stage, for their YouTube channel, for social media, for any circumstance where they really can add some personality to their brand. So hope you all join us for that. Amanda, thanks again.
Yes, thanks for having me, Joy. I really appreciate it.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for the great information. Thank you. Lots of thank you,
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.